I have noticed that at various times when one of my colleagues is pressing you, you come up with something in their background. So I'll be waiting for my turn, but you don't have to do it right now. So let me get to my questions. One of the things that you mentioned, and I agree with this, that it's really tough on the various federal workforce, including our law enforcement folks, who are not getting paid because of the shutdown. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. But I also think that wasn't the whole story. There is an issue here that's going to affect Americans, whether they voted for President Trump or voted for Vice President Harris, and that is the loss of health care, where on November 1st, everyone who is getting Affordable Care Act help to buy insurance is going to get the notice of premium increases. And I got a letter just today from a Vermont family, nuclear family of 5, husband and wife, 54 and 55, with 3 kids, one of whom has acute myeloid leukemia. And the apprehension that they have is that if we don't solve this problem, and November 1 is a urgent date, then their family premiums will triple. It'll be beyond their ability to pay. So I'm assuming that with respect to the threat to health care for families in your state of Florida, in my state of Vermont, you would share that concern and hope that we would resolve that.
Senator Welch, I would be happy to speak with that family too, because there are many nonprofits that help with children with terminal illnesses, and I'm involved in some in Florida. So we would be happy to talk to you about that. As to health care, the government is shut down. It's my understanding, maybe you're not one of them, but because many Democrats want health care for illegal aliens, and that's what shut down the government.
This exchange reveals something deeper than just a routine Senate hearing. What we're witnessing here is a fundamental clash over health care, voting rights, and the limits of federal power. Senator Welch came prepared with a real story, a Vermont family facing impossible choices. The father is 54, the mother 55. They have 3 children, and one of those children is battling acute myeloid leukemia. Without the Affordable Care Act subsidies, their premiums would triple. Think about that for a moment. What would you do if your child had cancer and your insurance costs suddenly became impossible to afford? But notice how Attorney General Bondi responded. She offered to connect them with nonprofits, a compassionate gesture on the surface, but then she pivoted immediately to blame Democrats for wanting health care for illegal aliens, claiming that's what shut down the government. Do you think that was a fair characterization of the issue? The senator pushed back, making a crucial point. This isn't about red states versus blue states. Families who voted for Trump and families who voted for Harris are all facing the same November 1st deadline. Healthcare doesn't care about your political affiliation. The tension escalated when Senator Welch moved to voting rights. His state of Vermont received a demand letter from the Department of Justice's Voting Rights Division, a letter requesting all voting file information, including personal data. But here's what caught the senator's attention. The division chief who sent these letters had made statements about the voting process being taken over by the left. In your opinion, does that sound like an objective investigation, or does it sound like a predetermined conclusion? Watch how this unfolds. Senator Welch asked a direct question. Do you have any evidence that Vermont's voting system has been taken over by the left? It's a fair question, especially considering Vermont has a Republican governor and had a Republican Secretary of State for many years. Attorney General Bondi's response? She said she wasn't familiar with the specific statement, but defended the right to request the information. Then she turned the senator's own words against him. You just said you have a Republican governor, so it doesn't make sense what you just said. But does that answer the question? The senator wasn't asking whether the Justice Department had the legal authority to request information. He was asking about the factual basis for the investigation. As he pointed out, Bondi herself would have demanded a factual basis before opening investigations when she was a county prosecutor and Florida's Attorney General.
This is where prosecutorial discretion becomes critical. Yes, the Attorney General has the authority to investigate. But should every investigation be launched without specific evidence of wrongdoing? What do you think? Should federal investigations require concrete evidence first, or is broad information gathering always justified? The exchange became even more heated when Senator Welch pointed out an apparent contradiction. Throughout the hearing, Attorney General Bondi had repeatedly refused to answer questions about pending litigation. But when Senator Cruz asked about the Kavanaugh case, where a man was sentenced to 8 years for threatening Justice Kavanaugh, she spoke at length about the details of the case. Senator Welch called this out. "That's pending litigation. You've indicated you're going to be appealing." Bondi's defense was that she was only discussing facts from the sentencing hearing, which are public record. Do you think that's a meaningful distinction, or was the senator right to point out the inconsistency? The most explosive moment came at the end, when Senator Welch brought up Tom Homan and a controversial $50,000. The details here matter. Apparently, the FBI turned over $50,000 to Homan, and there are questions about what happened to that money. When Senator Welch asked if there was audio and videotape of the transfer, Attorney General Bondi said she didn't know and referred him to Director Patel. The senator pressed, "If you don't know, why don't you know?" He argued this was a matter of public interest. Bondi's response was firm. "That was resolved prior to my confirmation as Attorney General." But Senator Welch wasn't satisfied. "It's not resolved. There's $50,000. Homan has it, or somebody has it." Then came the accusation that stopped the exchange cold. Attorney General Bondi said, "You're not going to sit here and slander Tom Homan." Was the senator slandering anyone, or was he asking legitimate oversight questions? This is the tension at the heart of congressional hearings. Senators have a constitutional duty to provide oversight. Asking where $50,000 went isn't slander, it's accountability. Notice how Bondi defended Homan, quote, "Tom Homan is doing a great job keeping your border state safe." But Vermont isn't a border state in the traditional sense. Was this an effective defense, or did it deflect from the actual question about the money? What we're seeing in this hearing reflects the broader challenges facing our political system. Healthcare policy affects millions of families regardless of party. Voting rights investigations carry enormous weight and require scrupulous fairness. Congressional oversight demands answers, not deflection. Senator Welch came with specific concerns from his constituents, a family facing healthcare bankruptcy, questions about voting rights investigations without apparent evidence, and accountability for federal funds. In your view, did he get satisfactory answers to any of these questions? Attorney General Bondi defended her department's actions, emphasized the legal authority behind their requests, and pushed back against what she saw as unfair characterizations. Do you think her responses addressed the substance of the concerns, or did they focus more on defending institutional prerogatives? The November 1st deadline for healthcare premiums is real. Families across America, in Florida, Vermont, and everywhere in between, are watching and waiting. The voting rights investigations continue, with demands going out to multiple states, and questions about federal funds and accountability remain. What do you think should happen next? Should Congress and the administration work together to solve the healthcare crisis before November 1st? Should voting rights investigations require specific evidence before demanding sensitive voter information? Should there be clearer answers about how federal money is tracked and spent? These aren't just political questions. They're questions about how our government functions and who it serves. This hearing gave us a window into those tensions, and the answers we demand will shape the direction of our country.